The Vaxilarian expansion fleet departed their central command station with ceremonial precision. Admiral Krell stood on the bridge of the flagship Inevitable Conquest, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he watched the swirling vortex of hyperspace envelop his 40 vessels. The mission details scrolled across his neural implant. A resource-rich world with pre-FTL natives, perfect for meeting the Empire's quarterly acquisition quota. Admiral, his second-in-command, approached with a data tablet. Final intelligence report on the target system. Krell glanced at the information dismissively. The third planet of the unremarkable yellow star housed billions of primitive bipeds who had barely managed to reach their own moon. Their technological development had progressed rapidly over the last few centuries, but they remained centuries away from true interstellar capability. Any communications from the Council regarding this sector? Krell asked, following standard protocol. None, Admiral. The system falls within unclaimed space according to the latest territorial agreements. Our scouts report no Council observation posts in the vicinity. Krell nodded with satisfaction. The lack of Council interest meant the Empire could proceed without diplomatic complications. The bipeds, humans, according to the report, would become another productive client species in the growing Vaxilarian hegemony. Their planet's abundant resources would fuel the Empire's industrial complex for decades. Prepare the standard first contact package, Krell ordered. Emergence from hyperspace in 12 hours. I want our fleet in perfect formation when we reveal ourselves. Meanwhile, deep in the forgotten archives of the Galactic Council, a data recovery system quietly flagged an anomaly. Senior analyst Zektor's report on the Sol system had been improperly archived during the system upgrade. The automated recovery protocol assigned the file a standard priority level, meaning it would take approximately 72 hours to be properly reintegrated into the active database, precisely 60 hours too late to prevent the impending disaster. On Earth, in the underground complex beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Maya Santos studied the holographic display with narrowed eyes. The Deep Space Monitoring Network had detected the energy signatures of multiple large vessels entering the outer solar system 3 hours ago. Probability assessment. She asked the room of analysts and military personnel. Colonel Wei Chen, head of the Extraterrestrial Defense Initiative, stepped forward. The energy signatures match no known human propulsion system. Movement patterns indicate deliberate approach rather than natural phenomena. We're looking at a 97% probability of extraterrestrial vessels, General. Santos nodded grimly. For decades, humanity had debated the existence of intelligent alien life. Now it seemed the question would be definitively answered. Implement First Contact Protocol Epsilon. All defense forces to Condition 2 readiness. Around the world, military installations quietly elevated their alert status. Specialized units that most of humanity didn't know existed moved into pre-designated positions. Orbital defense platforms, disguised as communication satellites and scientific instruments, powered up targeting systems while maintaining passive profiles. What about civilian notification? Asked political liaison Kamara. Not until we confirm intent, Santos replied. The last thing we need is global panic. The Secretary General has been briefed, and world leaders are being notified through secure channels. Defense Council representatives are assembling at the Geneva facility. Colonel Chen studied the incoming trajectory data. Based on their approach vector, they'll achieve Earth orbit in approximately 9 hours. Their deceleration pattern suggests advanced propulsion capabilities far beyond our current technology. And yet they're making no attempt to conceal their approach, Santos noted. Either they don't consider us a threat, or they want us to know they're coming. Or both, Chen added quietly. Santos turned to the communications officer. Maintain passive observation only. No broadcast attempts until they initiate contact or show clear hostile intent. She faced the assembled command staff. Humanity has prepared for this moment for generations. Our ancestors imagined this encounter in countless stories, some hopeful, most cautionary. We've built our defenses based on the assumption that advanced species capable of interstellar travel might not have our best interests at heart." She gestured to the holographic display showing the approaching fleet. "I hope I'm wrong. I hope these visitors come in peace, but until proven otherwise, we proceed according to protocol. Observation, assessment, and readiness to respond with appropriate force if necessary." As the command center personnel moved with practiced efficiency to their stations, Santos added, "And may whatever gods might exist have mercy on them if they come looking for an easy conquest, because humanity certainly won't." The 40 ships of the Vaxilarian acquisition fleet materialized in Earth orbit with theatrical precision, their quantum camouflage dissolving to reveal gleaming hulls that caught the sunlight like polished obsidian. On the flagship's bridge, Admiral Krell savored the moment. First contact scenarios were rare privileges in an officer's career, especially when they involved species ripe for integration into the Empire. "Commence the standard acquisition greeting," Krell ordered. "Broadcast on all frequencies they might monitor." Lieutenant Zeri manipulated the communication console with her four-fingered hands. "Broadcasting now, Admiral. Translation matrices are adapting to their primary languages." The message that beamed toward Earth was a masterpiece of psychological manipulation, refined over centuries of Vaxilarian expansion. It began with greetings of peace, followed by subtle implications of the visitor's technological superiority, then proceeded to outline the mutual benefits of Vaxilarian protection. The final section detailed the expected resource tributes and governance structure that would be implemented. The message concluded with a 6-hour response window before demonstration of capabilities. In command centers across Earth, military and civilian leaders watched the transmission with expressions ranging from shock to grim vindication. In the Geneva Planetary Defense Coordination Facility, Secretary General Okonkwo maintained her composure as the translation software decoded the alien message. "They're not even trying to hide their intentions," observed Defense Minister Cheng. "This is a conquest demand, plain and simple." Okonkwo nodded. "Activate the Sentinel Protocol. All military branches to Condition 1. Begin civilian emergency measures, quietly." Around the world, humanity's long-prepared contingency plans unfolded with methodical precision. Submarine commanders received authentication codes for special weapons deployment. Disguised orbital platforms adjusted their positions millimeter by millimeter. Ground-based electromagnetic pulse generators powered up beneath innocent-looking research facilities. Colonel Marquez of Cyber Command approached the central planning table. "We've completed preliminary analysis of their transmission protocols. There are exploitable vulnerabilities in their communication systems." "How certain are you?" Okonkwo asked. 87% confidence. Their technology is advanced, but their encryption is arrogant. They didn't expect us to be capable of sophisticated signals analysis. "Prepare the countermeasures, but hold for my command," Okonkwo ordered. She turned to her communications director. "Draft a response that plays for time. Express confusion about their terms, request clarification, appear intimidated but not panicked." As Earth's carefully crafted delaying message was transmitted, Admiral Krell received it with a satisfied smile. "See how they grovel," he told his bridge officers. Primitive species always followed the same pattern: denial, fear, then acceptance. His weapons officer approached with a tactical display. "We've identified optimal demonstration targets, Admiral. Their northern ice cap would create a visible effect without significant casualties." "Excellent. Prepare the demonstration strike for exactly when their response window closes. Maximum visual impact, minimal damage. We want their resources intact." "Admiral," Lieutenant Zeri interrupted, her voice tense, "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface and orbital region." Krell waved dismissively. "Primitive scanning attempts, no doubt. They're trying to understand our technology." "No, sir," Zeri insisted, her scales darkening with concern. "These are power signatures consistent with weapons charging, and their satellites are Repositioning. Before Krell could respond, his tactical officer called out, "Energy spike from the planet's oceans. Multiple launch signatures." "Impossible," Krell muttered, just as the ship's quantum AI announced, "Warning. Communications intrusion detected. Firewall breach on multiple frequencies." The bridge erupted in chaos as system after system reported anomalies. View screens flickered with strange symbols before going dark. Engine control nodes disconnected from the command network. Weapons targeting systems reset themselves repeatedly. "What is happening?" Krell demanded, gripping his command chair as the artificial gravity fluctuated. In the waters beneath Earth's oceans, specially designed submarines launched electromagnetic pulse weapons calibrated to the exact frequencies observed in the alien vessel's shield harmonics. From concealed bases in Antarctica, South America, and Central Asia, kinetic strike missiles accelerated toward the Vaxilarian fleet. Most significantly, the decades-old cyber warfare division of Earth's combined military executed infiltration protocols they had been refining since the earliest days of computing. Status report. Krell shouted as emergency lighting bathed the bridge in crimson. His second-in-command's voice was hollow with disbelief. "Admiral, we've lost propulsion on 37 ships. Weapon systems are offline. Communications between vessels is compromised. And, sir, we're detecting numerous small craft launching from the planet's surface." Admiral Krell stared at the tactical display in stunned silence as hundreds of human fighter craft rose to meet his crippled fleet. The supposedly primitive species had not only anticipated their arrival, but had prepared a coordinated counterstrike that exploited vulnerabilities the Vaxilarians didn't even know they had. "Open emergency channels to Fleet Command," he ordered quietly. Message begins. "First contact with Sol 3 species has resulted in catastrophic tactical failure. The humans were waiting for us." Junior Archivist Pelnar's discovery set off a chain reaction through the labyrinthine bureaucracy of the Galactic Council. Senior officials were awakened from sleep cycles, emergency meetings convened, and ancient protocols implemented for the first time in centuries. The recovered report on humanity painted a picture so alarming that Council Elder Thrix, known for his unflappable demeanor, ordered an immediate diplomatic intervention. "Send the fastest courier vessel to the Sol system," Elder Thrix commanded the assembled emergency committee. "The Vaxilarians must be warned before they provoke these humans further." Director Mrultan, his career now hanging by a thread for missing Zektora's original warning, studied the full report with growing horror. The psychological profile is unlike anything in our records. When threatened, most species become cautious and defensive. Humans become more innovative, more cohesive, and significantly more aggressive. "The courier will reach the Sol system in approximately 72 hours, reported the fleet coordinator. "The Vaxilarian Second Fleet will arrive in approximately 60 hours. "Too late," Zektora whispered. The senior analyst had been summoned from her research outpost and now watched the unfolding disaster she had tried to prevent. "The humans will interpret the Second Fleet as confirmation of hostile intent. Their response will escalate accordingly." Elder Thrix turned to the communications array. "Transmit emergency diplomatic protocols to the Vaxilarian High Command. They must recall their Second Fleet immediately." The communications officer adjusted his translator implant. "The Vaxilarian High Command acknowledges receipt but refuses recall. They cite defense of Imperial assets and personnel as justification." "Fools," Zektora muttered. "They still don't understand what they're facing." Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Captain Hikaru Jung led his team through the captured Vaxilarian vessel. Earth's military had transported 3 of the disabled alien ships to the hidden base for intensive study, while the remainder were being systematically examined in orbit. Engineering team reports 60% comprehension of their propulsion systems, his lieutenant reported. "The quantum entanglement principles are similar to our theoretical models, just applied differently." Zhang nodded, impressed by how quickly the joint scientific and military teams were adapting to alien technology and the computer systems. Cyber Division has bypassed their security protocols. We now have access to their star charts, communication networks, and tactical databases. The information is extraordinary, Captain. Zhang followed his lieutenant to the makeshift command center established in what had been the alien ship's crew quarters. Wall-mounted displays showed streams of data being extracted from Vaxilarian systems, species profiles, technological schematics, and most importantly, a comprehensive map of nearby galactic space. They're part of something called the Vaxilarian Empire, explained Chief Analyst Novak, gesturing to a sector of space highlighted in red. Mid-tier power by galactic standards, known for aggressive expansion and resource acquisition. And here, she pointed to a vastly larger region displayed in blue, is territory affiliated with the Galactic Council, a cooperative of hundreds of species. Zhang absorbed the information with the calm focus that had made him one of Earth's most effective special operations commanders. And the reinforcements. Novak brought up a tactical display. The Vaxilarian Second Fleet, 200 vessels, significantly more powerful than the force we've already neutralized. They'll arrive in approximately 58 hours based on their current trajectory. Can we intercept them before they reach Earth orbit? The chief engineer shook his head. Not with our current technology. We're making rapid progress adapting their FTL drives, but we need at least 4 days for a working prototype. Zhang studied the displays thoughtfully. Then we need to prepare a different kind of welcome. He activated his neural link to Earth Command. General Santos, we've confirmed a second wave of Vaxilarian vessels approaching. Recommend immediate implementation of Phase 2 and acceleration of Project Prometheus. The General's response was immediate. Understood, Captain. The Secretary-General has already authorized full defensive measures. The Mars facility is being prepared for your captured ships. How soon can you transport them? Within 12 hours. We've stabilized their propulsion systems enough for short-range movement. Good. The first wave was a reconnaissance in force. This second wave will be their genuine assault fleet. We need every advantage we can create. Zhang looked at the star chart again, at the vastness of inhabited space, suddenly open to human awareness. General, recommend we also prepare diplomatic initiatives. This Galactic Council may not be aware of the Vaxilarian aggression. They could prove valuable allies, or at least neutral parties. Already in progress, Captain. Your priority remains technology acquisition and adaptation. Earth Command out. As the communication ended, Zhang turned to his team with renewed purpose. We have less than 60 hours to prepare a surprise for our second round of visitors. I want every piece of useful technology identified, understood, and if possible, improved. Humanity has waited centuries for confirmation we're not alone in the universe. Let's make sure we're still around to explore it. Dr. Amara Okafor hadn't left the Quantum Applications Laboratory in 72 hours, but exhaustion couldn't touch her excitement. The captured Vaxilarian technology had confirmed theories her team had been working on for decades and revealed entirely new principles they hadn't even imagined. The quantum entanglement drive functions by creating paired singularities, she explained to the assembled military and scientific leadership. Her holographic display showed the alien engine core, components highlighted and annotated. One remains stationary relative to the departure point, while the other moves with the ship. The space between is effectively folded, allowing for faster-than-light travel without violating conventional physics. Admiral Rice looked skeptical. And you believe we can replicate this technology? Better than replicate, Amara said, unable to contain her enthusiasm. We can improve it. The Vaxilarians use conventional materials to contain the quantum field, which limits efficiency and requires enormous power. Our metamaterials research from the past decade offers a superior containment method. She brought up comparison simulations. Their version requires a dedicated antimatter reactor. Our prototype should operate with 40% less energy using modified fusion technology. General Santos studied the data. Time frame. The first prototype will be ready for testing in 18 hours, Amara replied. We're installing it in one of our orbital shuttles. If successful, we can begin retrofitting our defensive fleet immediately. The meeting continued with equally promising reports from other divisions. The advanced weapons team had already adapted Vaxilarian shield technology to Earth's defense platforms. The Xenobiology division reported that despite their intimidating appearance, Vaxilarians were physically vulnerable to several terrestrial compounds that could be used to develop non-lethal countermeasures. Most critically, the Communications division had cracked the encryption protocols for the Vaxilarian Interstellar network. We now have limited access to their military communication channels, reported Commander Wu. They're mobilizing significant forces beyond the Second Fleet. The Empire views our resistance as an unprecedented challenge to their authority. General Santos absorbed this information with a grim nod. Then we need to make the Second Fleet's reception so memorable that they reconsider further escalation. In a secure chamber adjacent to the conference room, Admiral Krell of the Vaxilarian First Fleet watched the humans plan through one-way glass. Unlike most of his captured officers, Krell had quickly grasped the new reality. When Captain Zhang visited for their daily intelligence session, the Admiral asked a question that had been troubling him. Your species has progressed remarkably quickly in adapting our technology, Krell observed, his translator implant converting his natural clicks and whistles into smooth English. Almost as if you've been preparing for this encounter. Zhang studied the alien commander. Despite being an enemy, Krell had shown himself to be intelligent and pragmatic. We have been preparing, in a sense, not for your species specifically, but for first contact in general. Most species that achieve spaceflight focus on exploration and resource development, Krell noted. You seem to have prioritized defense capabilities and technological adaptability. Zhang smiled slightly. Humanity has a long history of conflict. Our literature is filled with stories of contact between civilizations with differing levels of technology. Those stories rarely end well for the less advanced group. Understanding flickered in Krell's compound eyes. You expected hostility. We planned for it, Zhang corrected. Hoped against it, but planned for it nonetheless. You might say pessimism is one of our evolutionary advantages. Krell's speaking appendages twitched in what Zhang had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. The Second Fleet will not make the same mistakes we did. Supreme Commander Vrax is our most experienced military leader. We're counting on his experience, Zhang replied. Experienced commanders recognize when the cost of victory outweighs its value. The Admiral's scales shifted color slightly. You cannot hope to defeat 200 warships. We don't need to defeat them, Zhang said, rising to leave. We just need to make them reconsider their assumptions about Earth. As the door sealed behind the human, Krell turned to the window overlooking the lunar landscape. In just 3 days, these humans had adapted technology that had taken his species generations to develop. They moved with purpose and unity that the fractious Vaxilarian political system could never match. Most concerning of all, they seemed to view this existential crisis as a challenge to overcome rather than a disaster to survive. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Krell felt something approaching genuine fear, not for himself, but for the empire that had so severely underestimated its newest adversary. The Second Fleet was flying into something unprecedented, and he doubted even Supreme Commander Vrax fully comprehended what awaited them in Earth orbit. Supreme Commander Vrax stood motionless before the main viewport of the Indomitable Will, his 4 arms clasped in the formal posture of a Vaxilarian officer contemplating battle. The vastness of space stretched before him, with the blue-green jewel of Earth growing steadily larger as his fleet approached. 200 warships surrounded his command vessel, the largest military force assembled by the Empire in generations. Status report, he demanded, voice modulated to Project Calm Authority. All vessels reporting combat readiness, Commander, his second replied. Long-range scans show unusual activity on the 4th planet of the system. The primary target world appears unchanged. And the First Fleet? Still no communication, sir. Our advanced probes detect their vessels in high orbit around the third planet, but all appear to be powered down. Vrax's facial scales rippled in controlled concern. The First Fleet's silence was deeply troubling. Admiral Krell was a methodical commander, not prone to communication failures. Something had gone very wrong with the initial contact. "Deploy reconnaissance drones," he ordered. "Maximum stealth protocols. I want detailed scans of those ships and the planet's defense capabilities before we commit our forces." Before the order could be implemented, the ship's communication system activated automatically. Every screen on the bridge displayed the same image: a human female with dark skin and silver-streaked hair, wearing a formal uniform adorned with symbols of authority. "Greetings, Supreme Commander Vrax of the Vaxilarian Empire," she said, her words perfectly translated into High Vaxilarian. "I am Secretary General Kioma Okonkwo of the United Earth Government. Your fleet has entered sovereign human space without permission." Vrax maintained his composure despite his shock. "How did you access our secure communications network? And how do you know my identity?" Okonkwo's expression remained professional, betraying neither hostility nor fear. "We've had several informative conversations with Admiral Krell and his officers. They've been quite cooperative once they understood their situation." "You claim to hold the First Fleet captive." Vrax kept his tone measured despite his disbelief. "Not captive, Commander. We consider them guests who arrived uninvited. Their ships suffered catastrophic systems failures during our initial disagreement about the Empire's proposed acquisition of our world." Vrax signaled his tactical officer to trace the transmission source while keeping the human talking. "We come seeking our personnel and vessels. Return them immediately, and we may consider lenient terms for your world." Okonkwo nodded, as if considering his words. "We would be happy to discuss the return of your personnel. As for your ships, I'm afraid they've been reproposed." The view changed to show the fourth planet, Mars, according to their intelligence, where dozens of modified Vaxilarian vessels rose from the surface. They were escorted by smaller craft of obvious human design that, impossibly, appeared to incorporate Vaxilarian technology. "Impossible," Vrax whispered. "Those modifications would take years to implement." 4 days, actually, Okonkwo corrected. "We're quick learners. But I haven't introduced our mutual friend yet." The camera panned to show Admiral Krell standing beside the human leader. The Admiral's posture conveyed resignation rather than coercion. "Supreme Commander," Krell said formally, "the humans intercepted and neutralized our fleet using technologies we severely underestimated. They have accessed our databases and understand our capabilities. I recommend diplomatic resolution to this conflict." Vrax's tactical officer approached with a datapad. "Sir, we've traced the transmission. It's coming from Earth's moon, and we're detecting massive energy signatures consistent with weapons platforms on both the lunar surface and in Earth orbit." The camera returned to Secretary General Okonkwo. "Let me be direct, Commander Vrax. Your species attempted to conquer our world without provocation. Under galactic law, which we've now studied thoroughly thanks to your ship's databases, we would be justified in responding with proportional force." The view expanded to show a massive weapon mounted on the lunar surface, aimed directly at the Vaxilarian fleet. Its design incorporated elements of Vaxilarian technology, but modified in ways Vrax didn't recognize. "This prototype gravitic cannon was developed using principles from your ship's weapon systems," Okonkwo explained. "Our version is considerably more powerful, as we discovered more efficient energy cycling methods than your engineers employed." Just then, Vrax's communication officer received the delayed Galactic Council message, containing the full warning about humans and an urgent diplomatic request to avoid further provocation. The revelation hit Vrax with stunning force. The Council had classified these humans as a Class 4 threat, the highest possible designation for a sentient species. The report detailed evolutionary advantages that made them uniquely dangerous, accelerated adaptation to new technologies, unprecedented cooperation in the face of external threats, and problem-solving abilities that defied conventional prediction models. Vrax looked at the human fleet, considered the Council's warning, and recognized the new reality facing the Empire. With careful diplomacy, they might salvage personnel and pride. With continued aggression, they'd risked destruction and possibly war with a species that had, in mere days, proven itself far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. "We are prepared to discuss terms, Secretary General," he said, choosing his words carefully. "Perhaps we can reach an accommodation beneficial to both our peoples." The emergency session of the Galactic Council stretched into its third day. Representatives from over 300 species filled the vast chamber, all discussing the same unprecedented situation. The circular room, designed to eliminate hierarchies among member species, buzzed with overlapping conversations in dozens of languages despite the translation field. "Order. We will have order." Elder Thrix's amplified voice finally quieted the assembly. The ancient Meridian's crystalline exoskeleton glittered under the chamber's lights as he addressed the council. "We will proceed with fact-based discussion, not speculation and panic." Director Mrel-10, now the reluctant center of attention due to his department's catastrophic filing error, displayed the latest data stream from the Sol system. The Vaxilarian Empire has formally entered negotiations with Earth. Remarkably, the humans have not demanded reparations beyond the return of their system to pre-contact status. They appear interested primarily in technological and cultural exchange. "Deception," shouted Ambassador Creel of the Commerce Guild, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "These humans neutralized 40 Vaxilarian warships in hours and forced a second fleet to retreat. Such military capacity in a newly contacted species threatens the stability of 17 trade routes." Senior analyst Sectora, finally receiving the recognition her original assessment deserved, displayed her updated report. "The humans are indeed dangerous, but not in the way Ambassador Creel suggests. Their adaptation rate exceeds any known species by several orders of magnitude. However, their historical and cultural records consistently show preference for cooperation over conflict when given the choice." The vast display showed Earth's rapid technological progress over mere centuries, from primitive combustion engines to rudimentary artificial intelligence and fusion energy. Most striking was their response to the Vaxilarian incursion, not wholesale destruction of the invaders, but systematic disarmament followed by technological assimilation. "What the Commerce Guild fears," Sectora continued pointedly, "is not human aggression but human innovation. Their approaches to quantum mechanics, materials science, and computational systems differ fundamentally from our standardized methods. They solve problems sideways." The chamber erupted in overlapping conversations again until a new voice cut through the chaos. "Perhaps you should ask us directly." All eyes turned to the chamber entrance, where a delegation of humans stood. Their leader, a tall woman with dark skin and silver hair, the same Secretary General who had negotiated with the Vaxilarians, stepped forward. "Ambassador Adeyemi of Earth," she announced, her translator implant flawlessly rendering her words in standard Galactic. "We've accessed your public communication networks and translated your diplomatic protocols. We come seeking peaceful relations." Elder Thrix recovered from his shock first. "How did you reach the Council homeworld? The coordinates are secure, and you lack appropriate drive technology." Ambassador Adeyemi smiled. "We borrowed a ship. The Vaxilarians were quite accommodating after our misunderstanding was resolved." Behind her stood a Vaxilarian in diplomatic regalia, not Admiral Krell, but an official of even higher rank. "Special Envoy Taxon of the Vaxilarian Empire," he announced. "My government has established formal diplomatic relations with Earth and sponsors their petition for Council observation status." The chamber erupted in chaos once more. The Commerce Guild delegation withdrew to a corner, furiously communicating through encrypted channels. Several ancient species known for isolationist policies activated privacy fields around their delegations, But many more council members approached the human delegation with obvious curiosity. Elder Thrix called for order again. This is highly irregular. But these are irregular circumstances. Ambassador Adayemi, the Council acknowledges Earth's petition for observation status. Standard protocols require a minimum one-cycle review period before. With respect, Elder Adayemi interrupted smoothly. Standard protocols assume standard species. Earth is already deploying modified Vaxilarian drive technology to establish outposts throughout our solar system. In approximately 30 days, we will begin limited exploration of nearby systems. We prefer to do so within Council guidelines rather than risk inadvertent violations of territorial agreements. The implications stunned the Assembly into silence. What other species had taken centuries to achieve, humans were accomplishing in months. The Galactic Council suddenly faced a completely unprecedented scenario, a rapidly advancing species that sought cooperation while making clear they would proceed with or without approval. Ambassador Creel, the Centauri Mercantile Exchange, hadn't seen this much activity in centuries. The vast trading floor, designed to accommodate beings from methane breathers to silicon-based intelligences, buzzed with excitement and apprehension. Traders from a dozen species crowded around the newly established human sector, all clamoring to secure contracts with the newest galactic power. Ambassador Miguel Chen moved through the crowd with practiced ease, greeting various representatives by their proper titles and gestures. His neural implant provided real-time cultural context, allowing him to navigate complex social protocols that would have taken others years to master. The Commerce Guild offers superior protection for your shipping lanes, insisted a guild representative to Merchant Prince Soul of the Prataxian cluster. The insectoid being's translator rendered his clicking speech into smooth galactic standard. These humans lack the infrastructure to guarantee safe passage through contested regions. Chen approached with a respectful bow to the Prataxian ruler. While that's true, exalted Merchant Prince, what we lack in established infrastructure, we compensate for with innovation. He activated a holographic display showing modified engine schematics. These efficiency improvements to your existing drive systems will reduce fuel consumption by 22.7% and increase speed by 18.3%. We offer the technology in exchange for passage rights through the Prataxian corridor. The guild representative's mandibles clicked in agitation. These claims are unverified. The guild has spent centuries perfecting standardized drive systems that have remained essentially unchanged for 300 years. Chen interrupted smoothly. Our engineers identified 7 critical inefficiencies within hours of studying the designs. Merchant Prince Zol extended his sensory tendrils toward the holographic schematics, his species equivalent of intense interest. Your confidence intrigues me, Ambassador Chen. But how do I know these modifications will function as promised? Because we've already implemented them on our own vessels, Chen replied, gesturing toward the viewport where a human ship docked at the station. Its design incorporated elements from multiple species, but with distinctly human aesthetic modifications. We're prepared to retrofit one of your vessels at no cost. If the improvements don't meet our specifications, our offer is withdrawn with no obligations. The Merchant Prince's translator couldn't fully convey the complexity of his response, but the meaning was clear enough. The humans understand value. Guild speaker, perhaps you should learn from them. As Chen finalized the arrangement, across the trading floor, trade envoy Sophia Nazari conducted similar negotiations with the Aquatic Mirith Confederation. The bioluminescent beings communicated through patterns of light that rippled across their translucent bodies. The hydroponic systems we've developed for our orbital habitats can be adapted for your colony worlds affected by ocean acidification. Nazari explained, displaying underwater agricultural modules already being tested on Earth. In exchange, we seek only mining rights in your uninhabited outer systems, systems the Guild convinced you were too costly to develop. The Mirith Elder pulsed in patterns of agreement and surprise. For centuries, the Guild claimed such adaptation was impossible without exorbitant fees. You offer solutions where they offered only excuses. Similar scenes played out across the mercantile exchange as human diplomats systematically dismantled centuries of economic exploitation with a simple strategy: offered genuine value rather than extractive relationships. Each agreement expanded Earth's influence, not through military might, but through a web of interdependence that benefited all parties. In the shadows of the exchange, however, a different game unfolded. Guild operatives approached representatives from species threatened by human innovation, whispering about the dangers these unpredictable newcomers pose to galactic stability. "Have you seen their weapons research?" a guild agent murmured to a Dravian military attaché. "They've improved Vaxilarian shield technology by 30% in less than a month. What happens when they improve weapons systems by the same margin?" The Dravian scales rippled with concern. The power balance of the sector would shift overnight. "Precisely," the agent replied. "The Guild can provide resources to monitor these humans more closely. For mutual security, of course." Throughout the exchange, discrete surveillance drones, products of human miniaturization technology, recorded each conspiracy. Security Chief Carmen Ramos monitored the feeds from her position near Ambassador Chen, cataloging each interaction with methodical precision. "They're forming an alliance against us," she subvocalized to her neural implant, which transmitted directly to Earth Command. 7 species so far, primarily guild-dependent economies threatened by our technology-sharing initiatives. The response came moments later. "Continue observation. No intervention yet. Let them reveal their full network before we respond." Ramos acknowledged the order while maintaining her cover as a diplomatic aide. The Commerce Guild and its allies were playing a game whose rules had remained unchanged for millennia. They hadn't yet realized that humans had no intention of playing by those rules, or any rules they hadn't helped shape. As Ambassador Chen concluded his agreement with the Protections, the 5th such arrangement in as many days, he reflected on humanity's unprecedented position. In less than 2 months, Earth had gone from isolation to becoming a disruptive force in galactic politics. Not through conquest, like the Vaxilarians had attempted, but through something far more powerful: the human talent for seeing possibilities where others saw only established limitations. 5 years passed in the blink of a galactic eye. Earth's influence expanded through a carefully cultivated network of alliances, technological exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. Human outposts dotted the spiral arm, each a hub of innovation where previously isolated species found common ground. On the artificial world Harmony, representatives from 27 formerly antagonistic species gathered in the great amphitheater. The occasion: the signing of the Mutual Advancement Accord, establishing shared research initiatives and resource distribution protocols without Commerce Guild oversight. The amphitheater's design embodied human architectural principles adapted for multiple physiologies, a physical manifestation of Earth's approach to galactic relations. High Commissioner Adayemi, her diplomatic rank elevated to reflect Earth's growing influence, addressed the assembly from a central platform that adjusted to her height as she stepped onto it. 5 years ago, many in this chamber viewed Earth as a threat. She began, her words translated simultaneously into 27 languages. Some still do. Her gaze briefly settled on observers from the Commerce Guild and other traditional powers who monitored the proceedings with obvious concern. Yet today we gather not as conquerors and conquered, not as patrons and clients, but as partners in an unprecedented endeavor. She gestured to the holographic display, showing collaborative projects across dozens of worlds. Together, we've achieved what skeptics claimed was impossible: cooperation without exploitation, security without oppression, progress that benefits all parties equally. In the audience, senior analyst Sectora, now Council Liaison to Earth, reflected on how thoroughly she had underestimated these remarkable beings. Her original Class 4 threat assessment had been accurate but incomplete. Humans weren't just dangerous when provoked. They were transformative when engaged constructively. The Harmony Protocols represent a new approach to interspecies relations, Adeyemi continued. resource distribution based on need rather than leverage, technology sharing with appropriate safeguards rather than monopolistic hoarding, conflict resolution through mediation rather than military posturing. Representatives from formerly hostile species nodded in agreement. The Vaxilarians and Protections, whose territorial disputes had simmered for centuries, had resolved their differences through human-designed arbitration systems. The Murith Confederation and Dravian Empire, whose biological incompatibility had led to numerous conflicts, now collaborated on environmental remediation projects using human hydroponic technologies. The ceremony was interrupted when all communication systems activated simultaneously, broadcasting an emergency alert. At the galaxy's edge, a mysterious force had destroyed 3 outposts. The attackers used technology unlike any known species, and conventional defenses had proven useless against their weapons. The gathered representatives erupted in overlapping conversations until High Commissioner Idayemi raised her hand for silence. "We've just received confirmation from our long-range monitoring network," she announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of the news. "The attacks bear the hallmarks of the Nexus Collective, a theoretical threat that has existed only in ancient records until now." The chamber fell silent. Every spacefaring species knew the legends of the Collective, a machine intelligence that supposedly consumed entire civilizations at the galaxy's rim thousands of years ago before mysteriously disappearing. The Galactic Council has established a committee to study appropriate responses. Idayemi continued, a hint of wry amusement in her voice. The Commerce Guild has already issued a statement blaming human expansion for attracting unknown threats. Meanwhile, several ancient species have activated isolationist protocols and recalled their representatives from frontier regions. She paused, surveying the concerned faces around her. Earth's response is different. The Harmony Defense Fleet will deploy immediately to the affected sector. Our allies are invited to contribute ships and personnel as available, but Earth will stand regardless. We do not abandon friends to unknown threats. The declaration sent ripples through the assembly. Unlike established powers that retreated from danger and sacrificed frontier worlds, these humans charged toward threats, not just for their own security, but for their allies as well. As the emergency session concluded, representatives broke into groups based on their intended response. Those joining the Human-Led Defense Initiative gathered around Admiral Krell of the Vaxilarians, once Earth's would-be conqueror and now its most committed military ally. 5 years ago, my species made a grave error, Krell addressed the assembled representatives, his translator rendering his words with emotional nuance that conveyed genuine respect. We mistook humanity's isolation for weakness. Today, we stand with them against a common threat, not as conquerors or conquered, but as equals. He gestured toward the humans coordinating the defense response, their efficiency born of centuries preparing for existential threats. The galaxy is witnessing something unprecedented. What happens when humanity extends a hand in friendship rather than a fist in combat? On distant council worlds, skeptics continued to debate the human problem, while taking no action against the emerging threat. But across an expanding sphere of influence, species that had known only exploitation or isolation discovered a third option: partnership with the resourceful, adaptable, stubbornly optimistic species from Earth. As the joint fleet prepared for departure, High Commissioner Idayemi updated humanity's unofficial first contact protocol in her personal log. Be prepared for the worst, but always work toward the best. In darkness, bring light. In conflict, seek understanding. And never, ever stop exploring.